Welcome to Alternative Dog Moms Podcast. I'm Kimberly Gauthier, the creator of Keep the Tail Wagging. For the past 9 years, I've been blogging about raw feeding, pet wellness, and life as a crazy dog mom. I've seen massive improvements in my dog's health since I started raising my dogs naturally, and I'm passionate about sharing my experience to help other pet parents.
I'm Erin Scott. For the past 9 years, I've been researching and learning everything I can about healing cancer, allergies, autoimmune, and mystery illnesses in both my dogs and myself. And I can't wait to share with you everything I've learned on this journey. As the Alternative Dog Moms, we're bringing you all the latest dog health news that we're following and sharing the tips, tricks, and resources we learn along the way. Now, let's get started. Hello, Kimberly.
Hello, Erin.
I'm so glad to see you. Long time no see.
I know, it's been such a while. It's so weird. So how are things?
Oh, all right. We had our trip to the Delaware beach last week, and Neno was miserable the entire time.
Oh, really?
He just gets very out of sorts when he's not at home. He does not like being in the car. So we got through the week by the grace of CBD Dog Health. Our trip to Delaware is sponsored by CBD Dog Health.
Poor dog. Oh, it's so funny because it's like there's so many things I think my dogs would love to do. And I feel so bummed when they're just like, yeah, no, I'm not here for this.
Yeah. It was definitely a time when we were missing Penny because I think that in the past when we've gone, she helped him kind of settle in more and feel a little more comfortable. He still doesn't like the car one way or the other, but I think, so he was just, very out of sorts. And, we were right on the beach. And so we realized after like the second day of being there, we couldn't take him on the beach walks anymore because with his shoulder and arthritis stuff, he had started limping. So we were stuck with just, sidewalk walks, the rest of the week. I mean, Tim and I did beach walks, but sometimes we would take turns because he would get kind of anxious if we both left the house at the same time. So it was a lot of Tim and I like rotating, spending time outside, spending time on the beach, things like that. So yeah, you had never seen a dog so incredibly happy to be home as Neno when we got back home.
Yeah. Bella has seemingly gotten over her fear of the car. And because I just kept at it. Sometimes we would just go sit in the car and just sit there for a few minutes. And but now I started taking her to a local park. And it's a huge field. And so you can walk around the field with your dog on leash, or you can go inside the dog park, which is fenced, and you can have your dog off leash. So I do both. First, we go and we walk around the whole field, kind of like to wear him out a little bit. And then at the end of our walk, we have to walk past the dog park. So I'm able to see like how many dogs are in there. What does it look like? Are there any little kids in there? Because unfortunately, they're the people who bring their little children to the dog park, which I don't get that. I would be so terrified because you don't know these people and you don't know these dogs. But I just sort of like scouted out to see if it's going to be a good day. And if it looks like a good day, if dogs come over to the fence and they're not like, rah, 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 they're just like, hey, are you guys coming? Then we go into the dog park. And what's funny is that we're not in there for very long because Bella's very curious about the other dogs, but she doesn't often play with them. She likes to just sort of watch them run around from a distance. If she's with her siblings, she'll do more playing. And by her siblings, I mean her litter mates. And Apollo just goes and finds a human to sit with. One day we went and I was looking for Apollo and he was clear on the other end of the park. 3 girls sitting on the ground around him, petting him. And he was just sitting in the middle, like loving
in all his glory.
And so, so that's him. And then the last time we went, I took Zoe with us too. And she just sort of sat next to me and she wasn't really, I knew she wouldn't be interested, but she was okay to sit next to me. But yeah, so knowing that we're going somewhere fun, Bella seems to, because I used to have to put her on a leash and then just coax her to the car, sometimes carry her to the car. Now I can just go to the car and open a door and she'll run and jump in. So that's big. So.
Yeah, with Neno, if he realizes we're going in the car and not going for a walk, he'll like run and jump on the sofa and lay down and just be like, no, thank you. He'll like 1 minute he'll be at the door all excited because he sees the leash and thinks we're going for a walk, and then we'll be like, all right, buddy, we're gonna go for a ride, and he knows the difference between walk and ride, and he'll just be like, oh no, thank you. We're like, come on, you gotta do it. And yeah, like the first night of us being there, I mean, he was just so out of sorts with the sleeping arrangements. We always, I'm not a great traveler either. So I'm never comfortable in the bed, and I don't like showering, in weird places that aren't my house. And, so like Tim's sleeping on one bed and I'm sleeping in another bed because like the mattress was really uncomfortable for him. And then Neno didn't know where to be, and he was up, down, and like every little like noise or the air conditioner kicking on. So again, thank you, CBD Dog Health. It's the only reason I got sleep at all last week.
Yeah.
Have you ever done any trips like that with your dogs?
Years ago, when we just had Rodrigo and Sydney, so they were about 2 years old, we took them to a beach house. Same. It was Lake Wenatchee. And it was nice because it was a part of the lake, a family owned all the homes. And so they lived in the homes, and then there's one home that they would rent out. And it was a really amazing trip. I had so much fun, and it was an amazing trip. And I would definitely, if I didn't have 4 dogs, I would definitely want to do it again. But what's interesting is it's funny how you become so comfortable with your dogs that when you get a dog that's like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. It totally throws you off. And Bella's our dog, where she doesn't like to walk on the Centennial Trail. The other dogs love it. She is not a fan because of the bicycles. And so when we turn around to go home, she's dragging me. And if I take her off the leash, she'll just run home and then just go in, and she goes and jumps onto the property. She doesn't go to the house. She just like, okay, I'm on the property, and she's fine. And she just waits there for me. So she's the one that would be the lone holdout. I mean, I have a friend, I think I mentioned her before. She lives on 15 acres. She has tons of dogs. And I used to take Apollo up there. I still do all the time because her dog, I think it's her youngest dog, maybe, Zobel and Apollo are near the same age. So they were puppies together. And so they'll run around playing, and I'll go there, let him out the car. I go in a house and drink tea and let him run around for an hour or so. And then I'm like, yes, peace. And for the first time, I decided to take Bella up there with me a few weeks ago. And I wasn't sure how she was going to respond because she likes people. She's a little nervous around dogs that she doesn't know. But her first few months, or I don't even know if it was months, maybe weeks or so, were in that house on that property. So I figured she would remember and she would feel a little comfortable. And so I let her out, and she just was like, okay, see ya. And she went and sniffed and stuff, but it didn't take her long. I think maybe an hour in, she started looking for me. And so she was, not like a Velcro dog, but she was close by. And she recognized a lot of the dogs that were there. So she did pretty good because she knew who all these dogs were. But there were a few dogs that she didn't know. And so she wasn't really a fan because they weren't sniffing her in a way that she liked. They were just a little too excited. And she was just like, yeah, I don't like this. So I don't know if we would ever, or if I would ever travel with the dogs again. It's like having 4 is just too much, and no one's going to rent me their house.
Yeah. I mean, I think some of them wouldn't even, it was like one dog only. Like I had to really look, like I always have to really look. And then some people are like, oh yeah, you can have 2 dogs and it's, a $400 security deposit or something. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I feel like some people gouge you, or there's like a $500 pet fee or something. Like,
it's that. And I feel like I always wonder who ruined it. Like who ruined it for everybody else, and because I think that they would do, they would do well. They wouldn't destroy anything. They're good dogs, but it would just be so much to juggle. I mean, yeah, it would just be too much to juggle. So no, we just stay here and it's lovely.
Well, you traveled to Las Vegas recently.
I did. I went to SuperZoo for 2.5 days. It was not long enough. I was talking about this. I don't know if you can hear my cat. I swear he picks the best times to just come to the top of the stairs and then just start howling. So he will be howling for the next hour. But the biggest mistake I made going to SuperZoo was on the last day. I had a choice of going to lunch with friends or continuing walking the floor, and I wish I would have continued walking the floor. I don't think I really missed out on anything, so it's not a big regret, but there's so much to see. And a friend of mine and I, we just started at one end and worked our way through the floor, and it was pretty cool. I mean, there was nothing that stood out that was exciting to me. I did see some freeze-dried goat's milk, and I was thinking about ordering a case of it, but I just never, they sent me the order form and I had to print it out, fill it out, and then scan it back to them. And that was just too much. I was just like, you can't fill it out online. I like a PDF where I can type into it. And it's like, I can't.
Is that something that's powdered?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like, and then you can liquefy it. You can add water to it and liquefy it, or you can just use it as a meal topper. And, but this was, when I got back, Rodrigo was still sick. So I just didn't want to spend any money on anything that I wasn't going to really use. So I still think it's a cool product. I don't remember the name of the farm. I thought it was a cool product, but I don't know. There's so much out there now.
Yeah.
That it's just, you can't take it all in. Someone mentioned, like, I'm looking forward to seeing what you have to say about all the food brands you saw. And I was like, I didn't stop at any food brand booths. I mean, except for Solutions, because I knew people were there. But I mean, there was nothing food related that warranted a stop. It just wasn't really, there was nothing to really have a big conversation about. I feel like the pet industry is still coming out of the pandemic, so no one's really coming up with new innovative things. Everything seemed to be reinventing the wheel, where people are coming out with dental things, and it was just sort of like, I got dental stuff that works for my dog, so I'm not interested in trying a new one or writing about a new one. And the businesses seem more geared towards sales this year because a lot of times not that anyone turned me away. People were willing to talk and show me this is what we have and stuff. But it just seemed like most people they're looking at your badge to see if you're a store, because they want to talk to the retailers to get their products in the stores. They're not really interested in talking to, a content creator or an influencer. So that was, and then there was also, people who jumped. There was one particular brand that dove into the pet industry, possibly because it is a profitable industry. And for the life of me, I could not figure out what I had an issue with. I took samples of their food. I had an issue with their energy. They were very much just aggressive, not in a mean way or anything, but they were just very aggressive, where I wanted to just say, calm down. Like, what is wrong with you? Because I was just like, oh, are these free samples? They're like, well, what are you going to give us? Because we're not giving away free samples unless we're going to get some good press out of this and da da da. And I'm just sort of like, then keep your damn samples. I mean, it's like, they're tiny little bags. Don't act like you're doing me any favors. I was just like, I just could not figure out what was wrong and why I had red flags about the brand. I don't remember their name, but I know it had to do with eye health. And that evening, I rented a house with Ruby and Allie, and we're sitting on the sofa, and I dug in my bag to pull it out to go, what is wrong with this? And Allie nailed it immediately. And she was just like, it looks like a supplement, like, GNC, like a fitness supplement, the marketing of it, the colors, the way the wording was, everything on it looked like, a supplement bottle for, I don't know, some extra energy after workout supplement.
Creatine for your gains.
And I was just like, yes, that's exactly what it is. And then when we started looking at it more, because I had several of them, and so we were all looking at it, and the ingredients, they tell you like the vitamins, but they don't tell you the source. And it was little things like that. And they make promises that how can you say that this crunchy treat is going to support eye health? Or you're saying it because what? There's vitamin C in it. I mean, but we don't even know what the vitamin C is, if it's a natural source, if it's just some synthetic. And another thing that, the biggest red flag of all, which was so disappointing. And if I were that type of person who wrote about like uncovering the darkness in the pet industry, I would have been all over this one, but I really could care less. And I honestly don't think anyone in the fresh food community would give this brand a second look because it's just shady AF. But they had a big sign about this spray that they were developing that reversed cataracts. And I was just like, what type of spray reverses cataracts? They're like, we don't want to talk about it. It's still in testing and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, well, why do you have a poster up there? Don't take a picture of it. And it's funny because after 2.5 days and everything that I saw, this is the brand that was just like, what is your problem? Why are you here? I mean, they were just so shady. And so, but otherwise it was, I saw a lot of people that, I buy their products, and it was nice, seeing the people behind the product. It was nice seeing Roxanne and Chelsea. I saw the founder of Project Suds, and she gave me a dish soap bar. And, what I love about her product is that she doesn't use any, okay, there we go. She doesn't use any plastic. And she tries to have zero waste. So even when they're doing their bars, everything that's shaved off, they melt it into new bars, and they actually donate it to organizations to help people, low income and homeless people.
Oh, wow.
So she, it's kind of cool, just the things that people are doing. It was interesting talking to Cindy of Scout and Zoe's. And one thing that I love that she did several years ago is she started creating carp treats, because in the Great Lakes, it became an invasive species. So she found someone to work with, and they started making treats out of pretty much the whole fish. But now they can't do that because since COVID, it's hard to find people that'll do it. And people have cut back on the services that they offer. So she has some treats, but just not the whole, because she used to have the eyeballs, the cheeks. I mean, all these different treats for, she even had a frozen food that was made from the carp, and all of that is different now. So that's kind of a bummer. But in its place, she has, does she have like frog heads or something like that? Some frog thing but she has some new treats. Oh, it was trout heads. And then it was frog something. So she does have different treats. But I had to go to Target to buy a bag because I had so much. My plan was to come home with nothing. And I don't really like to take things. I don't like people to give me things. I'll take it if it's something I really want. So I do appreciate, the One for All company, or is it Fur for All? They make the pet house candles. Because they gave me a candle every year, and I so appreciate that. And it's burning right now. But I try to pay for things, and you can buy things like on the last day. So I got some sweaters for Bella, which she's too big for, but a coat that fits her perfectly. Everything was $20. And, I got some cool items that I'm going to do some reviews on and look into. But for the most part, yeah, if I had skipped SuperZoo this year, I probably would have had some FOMO from not being there. But it wasn't necessary for me to be there. So it was, it's not that it was a letdown or anything. It was a really relaxing trip, but there wasn't anything that blew me out of the way. There was a lot of people who weren't there that, I expected. I'm going through because they have an app, and I'm going through the list, and I was surprised at a lot of the, basically people that we would buy products from that just weren't there. But I understand those booths are, from what I do understand, very expensive.
Yeah.
So, but CBD Dog Health was there. I don't think I've ever been there when they've had a booth. So that was cool to see those guys. Green Juju was there. I've been there once where they had a booth, but Kelly wasn't there because I actually think she was pregnant at the time. This is years ago, before I think 2019 is when it was. But so she was there along with Billy. And the two crazy cat ladies had their party. I thought it was Wednesday night, so I thought I missed it, but I kept running. I ran into Rita Hogan and her partner and all these other people, and everyone kept saying, "Are you coming tonight?" And I was just like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." And then when they told me, I was like, no, that was last night. And they're like, "No, it's tonight." So I had a text to say, "Hey, we're coming." But yeah, it was a fun, relaxing trip. And I'm glad that we got a house instead of stayed at the hotel, because it was kind of nice to just unwind. And I think it was Friday, flash floods and thunderstorms and lightning. Everyone's phones was going off like for flash flood warnings. And it was just sort of
in Vegas because of that hurricane.
Yeah. And everyone who left Friday were delayed several hours because apparently a plane got struck by lightning on the tarmac.
Oh my God.
And so, yeah.
That's scary.
So it was like hours at the airport as everyone's waiting to go home. So I'm glad that, because I was thinking of changing my flight to Friday, because I was like, I want to go home. I miss my dogs. I want to go home. And Rodrigo wasn't eating. And so I was like really worried about him. So I just wanted to go home, and I'm glad that I didn't, because I would have been so frustrated.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, quick question for you. Are you someone who wants to be fit, healthy, and happy? And what if I told you could get your dream body by simply just listening to a podcast? I'm Josh.
And I'm KG, and we're the hosts of the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast.
Listen, we get it. Fitness isn't easy. Carbs, no carbs.
Just stop, okay? It doesn't have to be that complicated. And that's why we made this podcast. We get straight to the facts so you can become your best you.
So the way to check us out is click the link in the show notes or search Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast on any of the major podcast platforms. We'll see you soon.
So when you go to the booths, do people have samples? Do they sell things as retail, or are they only looking to sell things as like wholesale? Is it like a mix of these things? What is the setup in that regard?
It is a mix. The whole purpose of it is to sell to pet stores. Right. You get your stuff in pet stores. And there's also like online pet stores that they're making deals with there. You'll see them sitting down. They'll have tables, and there's some of them, the booths, they'll have tables, and they'll be sitting down placing orders. And there's always these SuperZoo specials. So everything's discounted. And I don't know if it's really wholesale, but it's just discounted. Some booths do give samples, or they'll have a sample out. So especially with food, so you can see like the consistency of the food or what it looks like. There's a lot of, just treats, supplements, things like that. Some have, actual products, and they'll give you, like, someone will be like, "Oh, here, Kimberly, take this," and I'll take it. Because I feel bad about saying no, but for the most part, it was cool stuff, because I only go to the booths that I'm interested in. But I try not to make that like the point of me being there. I had a really awful experience at one booth, and it wasn't, I'm exaggerating. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but I went to the booth because there were these toys, and with my rescue, we love this brand's toys, and we'll get the toys and we'll build a gift basket around the toys because they're so clever and cool. And they're the toys that have, like it looks like a little champagne bottle. And it has, I don't know what it said, but, like pup pain or something
right.
like that. So and it has the mocha cups and all of those type of things. We just think it's so cool because you can take, like, if you have the mocha toys, then you go to Marshall's and you get some mugs and you can get some, coffee beans, and you can make a whole theme out of that and do a raffle for rescue. And so I was telling my friend about this, like, I love these. This is so much fun. And this lady comes over and she's like, oh, how can we help? And I was just telling her the story. And she got really kind of cold. And she's like, so basically you're here asking for donations or something. And I was just like, no. And then finally I was just like, well, screw you. If you're going to be rude, then I'm just going to say, well, do you guys offer donations? Because and she was like, yeah, I'll just get you a card. And so she gave me a card and I took it. I would never call them to ask for donations because we can get their toys for like a few bucks at TJ Maxx and Marshall's and Home Goods. And we have like literal bins of them in our storage facility because we can get them at such good prices. So her attitude was so unnecessary, but it's kind of expected too, because I think that for some people, they get really annoyed by people coming to this, professional event and asking for handouts. But that wasn't what I was doing. But I think that that's what she just assumed that I was getting at. And I was just like, no, I don't want your crap. Your crappy little toys that my dogs would destroy in seconds. I don't want them. I just thought they're really kind of just a really clever, cool thing. And that's something that it's not pervasive at SuperZoo, but it's something that I've come to expect to happen. And I don't take offense, or I try not to, I should say, because I remember one year there were people pulling wagons around. You see that this year too. That's so brilliant because you can get everything and throw it in a wagon. It's just so nice because the bags get heavy, but they're just walking into booths and just loading up their wagon with stuff, not asking, and just like, oh, well, I'll do a review. And it's just like, yeah, that's not how this works. And I only know that because I had a few people complaining to me about it. And then a group of brands actually complained to the organizers of SuperZoo, and they sent out this email saying, okay, bloggers, we're going to have some new rules. And so it's frowned upon to do that. But yeah, for the most part, it's kind of like a trade show where I'm just there as a courtesy. I'm not there to make deals. And I don't want to waste anyone's time. I don't want to take up anyone's time asking tons of questions, because if a retailer comes, I want them to be able to spend their time selling their products to the retailers. And I don't want people to think I want freebies, because I like when I was at Cindy's booth, it's like, no, I will pay for this. And she was like, okay, good. Because I know how much money they put into coming to SuperZoo. They can't just give stuff away unless they're going to get really something out of it. And I'm not going to do sponsored posts in exchange for a bag of treats. So it's just easier for me to buy it that way. If I love it, I can write about it. I can promote it. I can do it my own way. If I don't love it, I don't have to say anything about it. So.
Did you notice any like trends or anything, like were there like a ton of CBD suppliers or treats, or, was it everybody doing like the freeze dried raw, or I don't know, just anything like that you were like, oh, there's a lot of that this year? 3 things.
Lots of CBD. In fact, CBD Dog Health posted a reel on Instagram showing all the different brands out there. What's sad to me about CBD is that there are companies that it's not CBD, it's hemp seed oil.
Right.
But they promote it as if it has the same benefits of CBD.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's the same plant, but it's different portions of the plants. One is the hemp seeds, one is the leaves, the everything else. But so that is, I find to be problematic. I understand why, because if it's a Canadian company, they can't actually come over to the US and sell CBD in our country. But I wish it were like hemp seed oil does have benefits. Market that. Don't mislead people, and definitely don't charge the same price point.
Right.
So there's that. Freeze dried everywhere, and which is cool. lots of everyone has something that's freeze dried. And it feels like a lot of people are leaning more towards that way only because I think that was easier to package and bring to SuperZoo. So tons and tons of freeze dried products. I'm pretty sure you saw that Green Juju came out with, I think, a goat and I don't know if it's a goat and a lamb. I think it was a goat and a lamb. But, so a lot of freeze dried products, and this isn't new, but it's just a continuation of brands that are piggybacking off of raw and using the word raw in the marketing of their kibble. And so there's a lot of that. Lots of single ingredient products. I was excited about that because my goal going there was to look for products that could be for anyone. It wasn't strictly for raw feeders, which is why I didn't spend time going to raw feeding booths. I think going forward, I'm going to start through the rest of the year, phasing out content about specific raw brands off of my website because I feed what I feed. And there's so many amazing raw brands out there that I kind of feel like when I only talk about these two, that I'm leaving a whole bunch off the table. So I'm no longer interested in
endorsing. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. That's it. I'm not interested in endorsing. I mean, if I feed it to my dogs, I'll say it. But right now, 3 raw brands that I promote a lot on my website, I haven't fed to my dogs. I think only one I fed this year. One I stopped feeding last year. I just didn't order anymore. And one I haven't fed in years. So I'm just going to go through and basically rewrite the content so that it's not endorsing any one brand, and any raw brands that I belong to their affiliate program, I'm going to quietly exit their affiliate program because it's not what my blog is about. It's not so much, it's more about how to make raw. It's not about how to go and buy some at the pet store, thaw it and feed it to your dogs. And so I didn't do that. I mostly focused on, freeze dried meal toppers, things like that. So regardless if you feed kibble or cooked or whatever you're doing, you can try it out with your dog. Raised Right was there. I didn't realize Dr. Becker helped formulate that food. I was looking for, because again, Rodrigo, God, he had such a bad month, but he was not eating. And it was one of those things where I would make something, he would eat it the first day, but then he wouldn't eat it anymore. So I stopped cooking for him because it was wasting food. Even though I could feed it to the other dogs, it was just like, okay. And I was trying different foods that I was getting at the store, and he would eat it once or maybe twice, and then he wouldn't want to eat it anymore. So when I saw the people at Raised Right, I was just like, maybe he'll like this. This looks like the texture, everything. This is something that he can get behind. So when I got home, I went to the store and bought some. It was not the same. What I got at the store when I thawed it and, put it in a bowl, crumbled it up, it didn't look the same as what I saw at SuperZoo. And maybe the one at SuperZoo was more dry because it was just sitting out there. But one day he was not a fan, just not interested at all. It smelled great. And I couldn't figure out what the smell was. It wasn't like, oh, I can smell sweet potato. It wasn't that. It was like, there was something and it was like, wow, this smells really good. He was not interested. The next day I decided to just throw it in the bowl because I still had it and put other things in there. The next day he devoured it. So I was just like, I still have one more packet. And so I'm going to give that a try. But the one cooked food that he has always loved is the Farmer's Dog. They were not at SuperZoo because they are a subscription service. So I spent a gazillion pounds of money and ordered a huge box of Farmer's Dog. So he will eat that until I run out of it. But yeah, I saw a lot of single ingredient treats, which I really appreciate because I know a lot of people who have dogs with sensitivities. And so not having to look at the ingredients panel is nice. Lots of Australian and by lots, I mean, I think 2 or 3 Australian brands. So I saw a lot of is it the gunny shark or gummy shark treats, the cartilage and things like that. So there were those type of things that were there. There is a brand called Wolf, and I've seen their stuff in pet stores, but they're also, I think, a New Zealand brand. And what I loved is that they had proteins that we don't have here. So if you have a dog with sensitivities, they have a lot of cool things that you can give to your dog. So, but
yeah, I know some people that feed like kangaroo, and that always like freaks me out.
One was called, I think, brush tail. And it's kind of I don't know what it is, to be honest, but there was, yeah. So I think kangaroo is kind of like deer and elk where I am, where when it starts overpopulating, they gotta do it down. And so it becomes because I think right now is elk hunting season. Oh no, it's elk rutting season right now. So
okay.
That's a difference. But but otherwise it was, it was a good trip. It was a nice trip.
Did you eat at any cool places? That's my favorite part of Vegas is eating.
I had the best mac and cheese, but I wasn't hungry enough and didn't finish it and had to leave the next day. So I couldn't even keep it. And I'm so disappointed because I've been thinking about it ever since. There was that. I have, we went to an Irish pub, and it's this place that I try to go there every time I'm there because it's so, so good. And so I had fish and chips there. Where else we went somewhere else? I'm trying to think. It was my job to set up dinner. I wanted to go to dinner at first it was going to be a group of us, but then people started like, I'm not going to do this, or I'm going to go and take a nap and stuff. So it ended up just being a few people, and I'm calling around to different restaurants to get us on reservations, and the reservation's like, yeah, we can get you in at 9:30, or we can get you in at 10:15. And I'm just like, good Lord. And it was so frustrating, and it was so upsetting, and I just could not do it. And finally, I called Billy, and I was just like, I can't do this. And he was like, clearly, this is too much for you. And so he took care of it and then texted me and was like, dinner at this place at this time. And I was like, okay. Because he was just like, I cannot believe how epically you failed. And I'm like, I know. I mean, I don't have to plan for dinner. We live in a small town. We have like 5 restaurants, and that's not true. We probably have 25 restaurants, but we go to the same places where they know us. We've watched their kids grow into adulthood. So I don't have to, I'm never at a point where I was like, where do you want to eat? Our thing of where do you want to eat is, do you want Mexican? Do you want to go to Mod Pizza, or do you want teriyaki? That's what we do. And sometimes we'll go for Thai, but we don't go that often. But sometimes we'll go for, usually that's kind of a winter meal for some reason to me. But yeah, that's 4 places that I do. It's very easy. It was just very upsetting and frustrating. And so, and then before we left, we went for Korean barbecue, and that was really good too. That was my second time having Korean barbecue. I love it.
Yeah, that's definitely like one of my favorite parts of Vegas is there's like just so many amazing places to eat.
I know. I mean, it's just, it was a lot of fun. We went to just sit in a bar. I think we were in the Luxor and just sat in a bar. We were like, let's have a margarita. And I was like, I want a spicy margarita because I love having those. And they brought us chips and salsa, and the salsa was so good that we were like, why is this so good? And they're like, oh, they roast the vegetables every morning and it's freshly made every day. Oh, wow. And I was just like, it was so good. And everyone was just so friendly. It was just a nice place. But I was happy to get home. Very, very happy. The dogs were happy to see me.
I'm sure.
Yeah, Johan was good because he did not tell me bad news. He just told me like he downplayed it because when I got home, when he came and picked me up, he told me what was really going on with the dogs, and I was just like, oh my God. Like Apollo wouldn't come in the house at he was fine the first 2 days. So he was fine Thursday and Friday. But Friday night, he just went outside and wouldn't come in. He just slept in the yard. He wouldn't come in the house again.
Oh my God.
Rigo stopped eating. I think he ate breakfast on Friday, but then, he wouldn't eat dinner. And then he was up all night with hunger pukes and pacing. No one knew where to sleep. Didn't know what to do. Everyone was out of sorts. And he was like, Rodrigo would just bark at night. So he's like, I was up every 2 hours. And I was just like, I'm sorry. I was like, the next 2 trips are not going to be like this. You won't have to deal with any of that. It'll be over the weekend and I'll be back. And then it's like, they'll be very quick trips. So I think next time I still wouldn't go. I wouldn't go on a longer trip, but I think next time, I don't know. I'll have to figure something out. Maybe even have someone come and stay at the house, even because or Johan said that he was like, I'll just take the time off. He was like, I should have taken those days off and just been at home. But yeah, so it made me sad. And he was even telling me, you need to start sleeping upstairs because the dogs, they need to get used to you not being around. It's like, well, what about me? I need my dogs. So yeah.
So this was one other just funny thing with Neno. Oh, I did want to mention, sometimes people have asked about traveling with Raw. And so we did just, I got some of the sliders. I had pre-bagged them up into portions. We put them in the cooler, brought the goat milk. Like we just traveled. He just ate what he would normally eat mostly. But so at our house here in Maryland, we have carpet. Wall-to-wall carpet that looks like 20 years of dogs have lived on it. And I had noticed, at most beach houses, they have laminate because you're bringing sand in and they want to be able to clean it up. And so I had bought like 4 yoga mats, and then I had 2 yoga mats here. And so I had tried to place yoga mats like next to the beds and by the front door and like in the kitchen where he would eat. I didn't quite have enough to go through like the entire house, but I was at least trying to think of like where he would be the most. So all week he does fine with it. And then all of a sudden, Friday was our last full day. And it's like, he's slipping, he's scratching nails, he can't get his feet under him, he's like freaking out. So it's like, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden it's like he can't leave the yoga mat and he won't go outside and because he can't the floor was hot lava and, so we had to get all the yoga mats from the bedrooms and then grab mats from the bathrooms, and we were making a trail through so that we could get from one end of the house to the other. And it was like, dude, you were fine all week. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can't walk on the floor anymore.
Oh my gosh, so bad.
It was a week.
Yeah, I can understand. So did you get your Gussy's gut?
I did. Neno seemed to enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you smelled it?
Mm-hmm.
I love the way it smells.
It does. It smells kind of good. Surprisingly good, because most dog things do not smell good.
No, they do not. And it smells really good. Well, I would say, like those dentist commercials where it's 3 out of 4 dentists. 3 out of 4 dogs love the Gussy's gut. I would think that had Rodrigo not been sick, he would have loved it too. But right now, Rodrigo is suspicious of anything that I feed him and thinks that I am poisoning him. And I have been hand feeding him for 2 weeks, off and on. Well, for 3 weeks off and on. Today was the first day that I didn't hand feed him.
Oh, poor guy.
But yeah, it's like there were days where he would eat his food, but then there were days when I was gone, he did a lot better. But it's like he knew she's going to feed me. I'm going to go lay down and she'll come in here and feed me. Mm-hmm. It's just, golly. But yeah, so he was not interested in the Gussy's gut. And it's funny because he was the one that I thought would benefit from it the most. And he's just like, yeah, no, I'm not eating that. But the other dogs love it. And so the question that I'm getting a lot from people is, do you plan on replacing the Dr. Harvey's with the Gussy's Gut? And it's just like, yeah, it's not a base mix. I look at it as similar to when I make a veggie mix or buying the Just Greens from Green Juju, except for it's fermented. It's a fermented product. But the only thing that I've noticed as far as a cool thing is Rodrigo. And I think we talked about this last year where he was itching his butt so much.
Or Apollo.
Thank you, Apollo. I keep also calling Apollo Scout recently too. But Apollo was itching his butt. And so he lost his hair underneath his tail and all around his butt. And it was red. Sometimes there would be blood droplets. It was just a hot mess. And that was, it was last year, because then I went to that conference and I bought all the Adored Beast and started alternating that. And within a month, it sort of calmed down. 2 months, the hair was back, and we haven't had an issue until recently. And I'm just like, oh, I can't handle any sick dogs right now. And I just looked at all of them and was like, I need you guys to pull it together, because I just can't. And I was about to start doing the Adored Beast, even though I still have it in his diet. It just wasn't, I wasn't consistently doing it, but I was going to start rotating it religiously. But the Gussy's Gut showed up, and I was just like, well, why don't I do this? I cannot do Adored Beast because I want to be able to say that this is the reason why this happened. And even though I haven't been following the instructions. There were days where I was giving it twice a day, but it's with traveling and everything, I'm mostly giving it once a day. But even with only doing it once a day, and in the middle of that, having 3 days off, because when I did meal prep, I didn't add any supplements to anyone's meals just in case they decided I'm not eating this. So having 3 days off and then coming back to it, his butt stuff cleared up.
Wow.
No issues. Yeah. So he stopped itching his butt. So yay, knock on wood that was what's happening. I honestly can't say for sure, but I'm not hating it. So, and I don't have any severely ill dogs with severe issues. So, except for Rodrigo, who will not eat it.
So Neno eats it with no problem, and I'm giving it the twice a day as you're supposed to. So I've been most curious to see how it would affect his pooping, because he always tends towards more on the constipated side. Just his whole life, ever since we've had him, it's never one long poop. It's always in pieces. But we've also, because of traveling, I had rotated to a different brand of food so that we could travel. And so I have seen a little bit of changes, but I'm not sure yet whether it's from the Gussy's Gut or because we had switched brands of food again. So I'm still keeping an eye on that, because I want to be able to attribute it one way or the other. But what's also interesting is when the day we talked to Poppy and she looked at Neno's eyes, I think that was the day we got our delivery of Gussy's Gut. So I want to, when we finish the first bag, that's the other thing I'll say, because I know that this one is on the pricier end. I am pleasantly surprised at how long it's lasting
and how big. The bag is almost
really
filled
big
to the top. It's not like a lot of these type of products. I actually expected the bag to be a lot smaller, and I expected it to only be filled halfway. So I was really impressed with that. And I'm giving it to 3 dogs. I mean, granted, I'm doing it once a day, but I'm giving it to 3 dogs, and I'm only halfway through the bag. And so, I'm a little more than halfway through the bag, because for the most of the time I was doing it twice a day, but this week I'm doing it once a day since I got back. And so and what you said about the constipation, I've noticed that about Zoe. She tends to be on the constipated side, and her stools are not as hard since being on Gussy's Gut.
Yeah, that's what I want to really be sure that's what it's helping. And I want to take a picture of his eyes when we get through the bag and see if there's any changes and see if I can compare them. Or I might just have to ask Poppy to do that because I never know what I'm looking at.
I think I went through and took pictures of everyone's eyes after we did that. And I have a chart. I ordered one.
Yeah.
Off of Amazon as well as a book. And I thought it was really interesting just going through. And it's funny because I read one incorrectly because it was the right eye, but I looked at the left eye chart. So I got it wrong. But when I turned it around, it made a lot more sense. And it was one of those where even with I have a mark on my eye and it goes towards back pain, which I do have. So I think things like that are really kind of cool. So.
Yeah, I want to look at my eyes also because I'm curious if like the breast cancer stuff would show up on one eye but not the other, you know?
Mm. Yeah. So, but otherwise it's just, Rodrigo has recovered. He's a lot better and he's a lot perkier. And so he's actually been getting better every day. It's the feeding or the eating that has taken a long time for him to get better. I took him in for blood work because I figured I don't know what's going on. And just in case this is something serious, let's just rule out. Let's look and right. I found that he has elevated liver enzymes, which isn't surprising because he's on daily CBD oil, but I'm now giving him a liver supplement to offset it. I have to put it at the back of his throat because he will not take it any other way. And so I'm just like, I'm so
the worst. I know.
I'm so sorry to do this to you, but here you go. and so you brought it on yourself. You would just eat your food. You would be fine. But otherwise, he's doing a lot better. Aren't you? He had one day where he looked like he was drunk. And I was convinced that he was dying, and I called Johan because I was like, I think he's declining. And so Johan talked me down. He's like, let's talk about what he's been eating and doing, and let's see if we can. And we figured it out what happened. And so I gave him his stomach hurt, and he was like, anytime because he was laying in the grass. He was just like outside laying in the grass, and he wouldn't get up. And so I was trying to pick him up to bring him in the house, and he would yelp. So his stomach hurt and it was super hard. So I gave him an antacid because I actually purchased antacids when Scout was alive, gave him half of a pill. One stayed in his cheek and he eventually spit it out. So I was just like, ugh. So the other one back of the throat. And probably within a few hours, he was feeling so much better. And it was just like, yeah. And by nighttime, I mean, he was still tired, but he was, but his gums were white. It was just a whole... That's scary mess. Yeah. And it's just like, why are you doing this? Pull it together, old man. so I'm just happy. I'm just happy that he's like barking.
It's the worst when they don't feel good and you can't quite figure out why.
Yeah. And you can't, they can't tell you what's going on. And they're just looking at you like, what did you do? And I'm like, no wonder you won't eat my food. It's like every time I feed you, you get sick. But yeah, he's doing a lot better. So
good.
That's good.
I remember back when I had Lucy and Kahlua, that was back when my diet was not as good as it is today. And I used to eat a lot of Tums, and they thought Tums were like treats that we kept in the bathroom,
Yep.
And dogs can have gas sacs also. When Lucy was really sick, one of her medicines, I think, would give her gas pains, and her belly would get really like bloated looking and stuff.
Yeah.
And so we had like chewable gas sacs, and that would like help her belly. Like you could almost like watch it like deflate and, hear it deflate also.
Yeah. I know when I gave him the antacid, I told Johan, I was like, okay, well, we're going to have an evening of farts. So be prepared. But there was one fart. And that was it. And then it was just like, that's it. And I was like, well, good. Win-win. We can deal with this. But yeah, it always just makes me so sad, especially because at his age, since he wasn't eating, he lost weight. And I'm always like, something can happen where he won't come back from it. And I was being way over, dramatic.
Well,
in
you're
some
worried.
ways.
I mean,
But I was terrified too. But now that he's feeling better, it's just sort of like, he's the first senior dog that I've had. I mean, granted, my other dogs reached, a senior year, like Sydney was a senior, but, she turned 10 and then she passed away later that year. And Scout passed away at 8. And Zoe, she's going to be 10, but she's like the picture of health. Rodrigo's the first geriatric dog I've had. So it's weird, all the things I've had to, the changes, like as far as what he'll eat, when he'll eat. The fact that I have to, if he needs to eat, I need to take him outside to use the bathroom beforehand and after. Otherwise, he won't eat because everything's too full. And so I had to make notes for Johan, like before you feed him, take him outside, let him use the bathroom. Or if he looks at his food, he starts eating, but then he stops eating, pick his food up, take him outside because he probably has to use the bathroom. I have to make sure to take him outside at a certain time at night so that he can sleep through the night or else he'll get up. And the fact that, he does eat raw, but and this has been going on. He eats cooked too. Oh, thunder. We just had thunder. Anyway, he does eat cooked too, but he doesn't like my cooked food. I am not going to be offended by that. That's fine. He's not into raw meaty bones right now. He used to love them, but right now he's just really not into them. So it's just being able to roll with the punches with him and not stock up on anything. It's like if there's something that he says, I love this, do not run out and buy a case of it, because he seems like a cat where it's like, nope, I loved it yesterday, but today. I mean, it's at least it's not all my dogs. And I have a whole lot of respect for people who have picky dogs and what they have to go through on a daily basis feeding a picky dog.
I know. I've never had a super picky dog, only occasionally with Lucy when she was like really sick at the end, when her it was just her appetite was off, and we would be getting little cans of like baby food, beef and things, and trying to get her to eat that and lick that off of stuff, and that it was so stressful. It
is, and I made him promise me, it's like I need 3 years, because a year ago Scout had passed away, and I was like, I can't do the losing a dog every year or every other year. It's like, I just give me 3 years, and then I was like, I will walk you to the Rainbow Bridge. I was like, but I need 3 more years. But it's funny because, again, he's so good. I mean, we did the loop around the property today, and he was running and I mean, not the way he did, but, he's trotting along, and he's keeping up with us, and he's doing really well. So, I have hope. I have hope that he'll be fine. And his blood work came back, except for the liver enzymes, it came back perfectly.
Well, good. That's good.
So there you go. That's all I got.
All right. Well, that was a good catch-up session.
We're back onto a new routine.
All right, everybody. Until next time.
Talk to you later.